everyone. My name is Dario Mendoza Lor, and this case study is on the Latin American nation of Ecuador. The country of Ecuador is a small country on the western coast of South America. It is bordered by Colombia to the north, Peru to the south and east, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Its capital is Quito, and is mainly known for being on the equatorial line. Ecuador, however, is much more than that. Ecuador is one of the most biologically diverse countries in the world. There is a vast amount of diverse species in the country, ranging from hummingbirds and macaws to leopards to beautiful trees and orchids. Ecuador has 4 geographical regions that contribute to its biological and cultural diversity. These regions are the Galapagos Islands, El Insular, the Pacific Coastal Lowlands, La Costa, the Andes Highlands, La Sierra, and El Oriente, Amazonia. These regions all have a different culture despite being in the same country. Spanish dialects vary immensely between these regions, and traditional cultures are all different. Ecuador also has various indigenous tribes and different indigenous languages that stem from the native Quechua. Ecuador is a major exporter of bananas, plantains, gold, oil, and roses, and has stable relations with most of Latin America. The current president is Lenín Moreno, and he was elected in 2017. Here you can see the 24 provinces that are in Ecuador, and they're separated according to region. In the Insular region, you have the Galapagos. In the Costa region, you have Esmeraldas, Guayas, El Oro, Santa Elena, Los Rios, and Manabí. The capital of Manabí is Puerto Viejo and is responsible for most exports regarding seafood to the U.S. In the Sierra region, you have Carchi, Imbabura, Pichincha, which is the location of Quito, Cotopaxi, which is also the name of a very active volcano, Tunguragua, Bolivar, Chimborazo, home to the mountain which is the tallest point in Ecuador and closest point to the sun, Cañar, Azuay, Loja, and Santo Domingo de los Áchilas. In the Oriente region, you have Sucumbíos, Napo, Pastaza, Orellana, Morona Santiago, and Zamora Chinchipe. This region is responsible for having all national parks protected by the government and all indigenous cultures protected as well. Topic 1. Independence. The independence movement of Ecuador from the Spanish crown stemmed from many reasons. However, the most prominent reason was social inequality towards mestizos and Ecuadorian criollos. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, during much of the colonial period, what is now Ecuador was under the direct jurisdiction of the law court Audiencia of Quito, and ultimately under the rule of the Spanish crown. Spanish culture was spread primarily by religious orders and male Spanish colonists. This ultimately meant that peninsulares and other privileged people from Spain could rule in Ecuador. Ultimately, this led to severe social stratification and a class divide between peninsulares, criollos, and mestizos that left each group with significantly less rights than peninsulares. Peninsulares were white Spaniards that were born in Spain and were typically of noble status. Criollos were white Spaniards that were born abroad, and mestizos were mixed citizens usually of Spaniard and Inca descent. According to Jason Halberstadt, writer for Ecuador Explorer, a webpage dedicated to historical and touristic information regarding Ecuador, José Joaquín de Olmedo, an Ecuadorian criollo, declared independence from Spain on October 1820, and called on Venezuela's Simón Bolívar and Argentina's José de San Martín for support. If it were not for the support, the independence movement may have been delayed another few decades. While this may have been the successful effort to declare independence from Spain, there was an ongoing effort before that. On August 10, 1809, the first official movement towards independence from Spain was made when members of the Ecuadorian law court were overthrown and Ecuadorian-born criollos were installed as the officials that were to take over. The final step towards independence was taken at the Battle of Pichincha on May 24, 1822, which marked the official independence of Ecuador from Spain. Today, Ecuador celebrates August 10th as the day Ecuador established its first official independent government in Quito, and May 24th as the final battle that led to independence. Ecuador's independence led to a new government that ultimately strived to provide its citizens with many rights and establish laws to uphold the country's national values. However, today, there are many marginalized groups of people that are not strongly represented and ultimately do not have as many rights, such as Ecuador's LGBT community. Topic 2. LGBT rights in Ecuador. In Ecuador, the LGBTQ community does not have a large representation in society and do not have as many rights as heterosexual members of society. According to the article Navigating the Left Turn, Sexual Justice and the Citizen Revolution in Ecuador, the Constitution of 1997 recognizes homosexuality in society. However, the 2008 Constitution went further, redefining the family, recognizing same-sex civil unions, and providing legal protection based on gender identity. At the same time, the 2008 Constitution banned same-sex marriage and adoption and continues the ban on abortion. In some parts of the country, there are unfortunately some clinics that are being created that attempt to practice conversion therapy to ultimately force gay people into becoming heterosexual members of society. The idea of conversion therapy has led to many clínicas. Gay clinics that are often found in Ecuador are masked sometimes as laboratories, hospitals, and rehab centers. These gay clinics are not allowed to run on their own, and many people operate without a license. According to Anastasia Maloney, a writer for Reuters, states that there are over 200 clinics in the country that operate and force their patients to perform humiliating jobs in inhumane conditions. Some are beaten severely every day, and some are even subjected to corrective rape in order to switch their sexuality. In terms of same-sex marriage, many efforts have been made to legalize it in Ecuador, especially after two couples were denied their right to marry, one in Cuenca, the other in Guayaquil. The other, according to Tamara Tarasik-Bronner, Senior Americas researcher for the Human Rights Watch, a 2017 opinion by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, citing the ACHR, said, countries should recognize same-sex couples as having the same rights related to family relationships as heterosexual couples, and that governments should ensure these rights in their domestic laws, including the right to marriage. This by no means implies that Ecuador is on the road to quick legalization of same-sex marriage. However, its courts have made rulings that allow more recognition to same-sex couples. Such court rulings include a child being born in Ecuador to two British mothers and being identified as having two mothers, and thus granting the couple equal rights compared to heterosexual couples. Ecuador still has a long way to go in order to legalize same-sex marriage, and in fact has more than three-quarters of the population opposed to the idea. While the LGBT community is one of the most marginalized communities in Ecuador, other citizens that are of a different socioeconomic status, as well as the indigenous, who are also marginalized, and in fact do not have access to what is considered a universal right in Ecuador's constitution: healthcare. Healthcare in Ecuador. Healthcare is a universal right in Ecuador according to the 2008 National Constitution. However, according to Health Policy and Planning, Volume 25, Issue 3, more than two-thirds of Ecuador's population live without insurance, and 25 to 30% of people lack regular access to health care. These disparities are caused by the socioeconomic inequality present in Ecuador, according to the U.S. National Library of Health, leaves indigenous, low-income, and rural households marginalized and with limited access to health care. This is an important fact considering that the majority of Ecuador's population falls into one of these three categories, thus allowing medical attention to be reserved only for the elite upper-class citizens and forcing many citizens to look for other sources of care such as home remedies that include caldo de pollo, mentol, and gárgaras de limón. The quality of healthcare in Ecuador is not as great as most countries, and in certain cases, doctors must be bribed or negotiated with only to treat a simple ailment. According to El Universo, an Ecuadorian newspaper, about 80% of illnesses can be treated on the first consultation. However, the quality of healthcare allows for the illnesses to progress into further stages. This ultimately results in more hospitalized patients and more doctors benefiting from the ill who can afford treatment in such a divided society. Conclusion and reflection. During the semester, I have had the opportunity to research various topics regarding my chosen Latin American country, Ecuador. I believe that this opportunity allowed me to understand my home country a bit better and explain it in an academic setting as well. Based on the information presented and the current social setting of Ecuador, the country seems to be heading in a neutral direction in terms of social change. However, the country does need to improve on its social justice and its healthcare accessibility. Ecuador ultimately has a lot of potential to ascend into a higher standard of living, but first needs to proceed to create change in society and allow for various communities to coexist. During these case studies in class, I learned a lot about different topics in Ecuador, such as the historical land dispute between Ecuador and Peru, the festival of Inti Raymi, which is celebrated every June by the indigenous community, and other topics as well.